Welcome, my dear followers, to another episode of Prophetic Wisdom. I am your favorite cyber prophet, Dave, here to reveal the dark secrets of the political overlord who once ruled the U.S. government with a heart colder than a freezer full of TV dinners. Yes, you guessed it. Today, we're diving deep into the biography of none other than Dick Cheney, a man who somehow managed to profit off both war and heart attacks. Let's just say that man could find a way to monetize a snowball fight in hell. But before we go on, let me warn you. If you're expecting a heartwarming tale of redemption, love, or the triumph of the human spirit, well, you're in the wrong place. This story is more like a horror movie, but instead of blood, it's oil, and instead of a slasher villain, we have Dick Cheney. Let's start with Cheney's early years. Now, while most of us were busy learning to tie our shoes or, enjoy life, Cheney was already scheming about how to corner the world's oil market. Imagine a toddler Dick Cheney toddling around, not with toys, but with maps of the Middle East and a list of defense contractors on speed dial. By the time he was in Washington, the man had mastered the fine art of war profiteering. He didn't just have skeletons in his closet, folks. He had the entire defense industry. Cheney came to power during the Reagan and Bush years, sharpening his teeth on Cold War politics. But you know what Cheney really loved? War. He loved war like we love free Wi-Fi. He looked at the Middle East and saw not a region of cultural richness and complexity, but, well, a giant gas station with too few American flags planted in the ground. And let's not forget, Cheney didn't just climb the political ladder. He built the thing out of defense contracts and oil rigs. Now let's fast forward to the Iraq War, where Cheney truly outdid himself. You remember those weapons of mass destruction? Yeah. Turns out they were as real as Bigfoot riding a unicorn. But Cheney sold them like he was pitching a Shark Tank idea. Imagine, if you will, a war that lasts for decades and makes billions of dollars for a few lucky defense contractors. He didn't care if there were WMDs. He just wanted to ensure that Halliburton's stock prices looked as shiny as his new pacemaker. So the war kicks off, and guess what? While American soldiers were out there risking their lives, Cheney's former company, Halliburton, was collecting government contracts like a kid collecting Halloween candy. Only this wasn't candy. It was billions of dollars. And bonus points, it wasn't his blood being spilled. What a guy. And speaking of things that nobody asked for but Cheney was more than happy to deliver, let's talk about the Patriot Act. Ah, yes. Nothing says freedom like government surveillance. Thanks to Cheney, the government gained the ability to listen in on your phone calls, read your emails, and even watch you while you binge Netflix at 2 a.m. because you have insomnia. Fun fact, Cheney once described the Patriot Act as a necessary tool to fight terrorism, which is political speak for, we're going to read your text messages about that sketchy gas station sushi you ate last night just to make sure you're not a threat to national security. Yes, hello? I see you just ordered 3 pizzas at 1 a.m. Suspicious. Might be plotting a carbo load attack. Better wiretap all your future DoorDash orders. Cheney's version of patriotism. We'll keep you safe by watching your every move. And don't worry, we'll only sell your data to like 5 of our closest corporate friends. You're welcome, America. Now, you may have heard of powerful vice presidents before. I mean, sure, some VPs have a little say in things, but Cheney? Cheney wasn't just any vice president. Cheney was like a political Sith Lord pulling the strings behind the scenes while poor George W. Bush just nodded and smiled like a kid lost in a Walmart. Bush thought he was president, but Cheney was the one behind the wheel, folks. The real puppet master. He turned the vice presidency into his own personal throne room. Imagine the White House, but with Cheney in the basement, plotting like a James Bond villain. Only instead of world domination, he was more interested in oil pipelines and drone strikes. And now we get to the sad part. Cheney's fall from grace. Once a puppet master, always a puppet master, right? Wrong. Along comes Donald Trump, bulldozing the political scene like a reality TV wrecking ball, and suddenly, Cheney's brand of quiet, behind-the-scenes evil looked downright boring. The GOP had moved on to louder, more Twitter-friendly shenanigans. But what about my decades of strategic war profiteering and constitutional erosion? Sorry, Dick. Twitter doesn't care. So what have we learned today, dear followers? We've learned that Dick Cheney is the embodiment of corporate greed, war profiteering, and apparently wiretapping. He's a man who turned being a vice president into a full-time job of slowly dismantling democracy, one executive order at a time. But don't feel too bad for Cheney. Sure, he fell from grace, but he's still doing fine. I mean, when you've got an oil fortune, several houses, and your own secret surveillance program, who needs public approval? So, here's the thing no one wants to admit. Dick Cheney endorsing Kamala Harris? It's not some shocking betrayal, folks. It's not like he switched teams or suddenly grew a conscience. Nope. The truth is, his values have always aligned more with the Democrats. Yep, you heard me right. Cheney, the so-called conservative war hawk, was never really one of us. And let's not forget his buddy, George W. Bush, too. They both belong to the same club, the establishment elites who've been playing both sides for years. You see, Cheney and the DNC have more in common than you think. It's all about power, control, and serving the globalist agenda. Remember, Cheney never met a war he didn't love. War means profit, and profit means more power. So, of course, he's backing Kamala Harris, the Green Witch of Narnia. She's just another cog in the machine, a puppet ready to carry out the same elitist agenda. Her whole green revolution, you think that's about saving the planet? Nope. It's about controlling you and your wallet, just like Cheney's wars were about controlling oil and defense contracts. Let's be honest, Cheney never cared about real conservative values. He didn't care about free markets, small government, or individual freedom. No, Cheney's always been about the big players, the defense contractors, the oil companies, the Wall Street elites. And what does Kamala represent? The same corporate interests, but with a coat of green paint slapped on to make it look progressive. And Cheney? He's smart enough to know that the new gravy train isn't oil. It's all about selling out to the woke crowd. Green energy, government contracts, endless regulations. That's the new frontier, and Cheney's lining up for his cut. The truth is, Cheney's policies always aligned with the Democrats. Big government, endless wars, corporate cronyism, it's all the same game. The Patriot Act, Cheney's brainchild. And who loves government overreach more than the left? They're practically giddy over the idea of reading your emails and controlling every aspect of your life under the guise of protecting you. And Kamala, well, she's just the latest face of the same old establishment. She talks a big game about justice and equality, but look at her record. More taxes, more regulations, more government interference in your life. Sound familiar? It's the same kind of top-down control that Cheney thrived on during the Bush years, just with a different set of buzzwords. Where Cheney used national security to justify his overreach, Kamala uses climate change and social justice. But at the end of the day, it's the same old playbook. Keep the elites in power, keep the money flowing, and make sure the regular folks get the short end of the stick. So, no. Cheney backing Harris isn't a betrayal. It's him showing his true colors. He's always been part of the establishment, and the establishment doesn't care if it's red or blue as long as it stays in power. Cheney and Harris? They're two sides of the same coin. Both want control, both want power, and both are happy to sell out the American people to get it. So don't be fooled, folks. Cheney and Harris are on the same team, always have been. And while Trump was busy actually putting America first, fighting for the people, Cheney and his establishment buddies were planning their next big move. Kamala Harris is just the latest puppet in the game, and Cheney's more than happy to pull the strings. It's the same swamp, just with a new face. Until next time, my dear followers, this is your favorite cyber prophet Dave, signing off, reminding you to always question authority, especially if that authority looks like it might start a war for profit.